Pastor Matthew Secchi here from Verity Baptist Church, Philippines, and I just want to give you a report and a recap from the 2024 Philippines missions trip. And it was a big success. We had 2,843 salvations that we counted, and so it was a great total. We were over 2,600 going into a Sunday. Sunday's not our best soul winning time. Some of the parks we used to have a lot of success, we don't really have access to anymore. They're doing construction and stuff. But we're able to get 2,843. Honestly, I was expecting about half that maybe. I would have been satisfied with a missions trip of 1,500 salvations. Obviously, this far exceeded it. It broke our record for previous missions trips. And so, when it came to the salvations that we got, the reason why it's so successful is we're actually in different areas than previous missions trips. Before we made use of Result Park, we don't really have access to go there anymore. They're a lot more strict with people doing any sort of evangelism, and specifically us, as we've made that our main soul winning area for a while. And so we had, other areas that we made use of, and especially toward the college campuses, and that's where we had a lot of success. And so, even though we didn't have as big of an area to go soul winning in one specific area, and it made it a lot more complex because it's just much more receptive at the college campuses, we had big results. We also preached at the schools on Tuesday, and we preached to thousands of students there. We didn't really get salvation results from the schools, at least mainly. Honestly, in the past, we've never counted salvations when we preached to schools because I just really didn't know, how do we know who's really believing this? You don't really get a chance to individually ask them questions as much. But we are going to make use of the technique. I heard Brother Kent Knowles started using this technique, and Steadfast used it to the Bahamas, where they have written down on a piece of paper specific questions afterwards. And if you answer everything correctly, then you can be confident, relatively confident that, yeah, they got it. So we're going to start making use of that. But our 2,843 salvations, that's without those included. So we had big results, a great time. So just give you a couple minute recap of just kind of the order of how everything went. The mission trip started on this past Monday, February 19th. And there's actually people that showed up, before that, several people. Pastor Kevin Sepulveda was with us on that Sunday, the day before our official start time for the missions trip. He preached a great sermon on just giving thanks, always giving thanks to God. And we always have things that we can be thankful for. Then I preached after that, and I talked about kind of the persecution we're going through. We kind of had a meeting on that Sunday night to try to get things as organized as possible. With our missions trip, we had a lot of people coming in. So we can only make it so organized because when you're dealing with a large group of people, it's really hard. You can't really micromanage every single detail. You got to kind of let people split up into their own groups. So we kind of let people have various different options because we just had a lot of people in for the missions trip. And it ended up working well. I believe everyone had a great time. They had great success. That Wednesday, midway through our missions trip, I preached the Wednesday night service, and I preached on the cedar tree of Lebanon. The Bible links that in Psalm 92 with bringing forth fruit in your entire life. And then on that final Sunday, I preached on the palm tree, also in Psalm 92. It also talks about bringing forth fruit in our whole lives. Fascinating trees, great information that the Bible gives us there. I can already say that I've got a lot of ideas to make next year's missions trip even better. You can count on it next year, next February. February is the best month, I believe, because ticket prices get very high during the Christmas season, and they kind of stay high for a little while. By February, it's kind of like they've already gone down. Plus, you kind of get, you're in the new year, you're kind of more in a routine. And then as you go past February, it gets hotter, more likely to rain. So February is our best month. And when we did this missions trip, the schools basically start right at the beginning of February. So this is a perfect time. You got lots of students back out. They're in the routine. So there's many students to talk to. It's perfect time. So you can plan on next February, us having the missions trip again. As I said, I've got a lot of ideas of things that that we can do better next time. Things that can make it, more smoother and better. And I also know of like-minded pastors, several that are interested in coming. So maybe next year we're going to have more like-minded pastors other than just Pastor Sepulveda. Maybe it can be like a mini conference / missions trip. We're going to see who is able to show up. But everybody had a great time, and to me, the most exciting part was seeing people that come from areas that are not that receptive, and they had just such a joy for preaching the gospel. They had never really experienced something like this, where they're preaching and getting a lot of people saved. One thing about the Philippines that might be different than other very receptive countries is you get rejected a lot in the Philippines. This is a misconception that everybody listens. I mean, if you go door to door, almost everybody rejects you. At least in Manila, Pampanga. Obviously, there's several parts of the Philippines. When you go to parks, a lot of people reject you. But what makes it so receptive in terms of getting a lot of people saved is that there are a lot of people at parks and they gather into groups. So you get to the end of the day and you feel like you've been rejected so many times, and yet you might have more salvations than you'd have in other areas where almost everybody's listening to you. But it was a great time. A lot of people got saved. I have a lot of ideas for next year's trip, and I just wanted to update you. So 2,843 salvations is our final total, and we're just excited for next year's event. Anyways, thank you, and God bless.